Hi everyone, welcome to RMA Garage. I'm Mark and we're here talking dirt bikes. So you're thinking about either buying yourself or your kids their first dirt bike. Well, we asked ourselves that same question about 3 years ago, and as you can see, we have three 250 dirt bikes, and we're going to tell you how we did it. First, let me tell you how we got interested in dirt bikes. My wife took my two sons to a friend's house where they had mini bikes and quads, and they got to ride them. Well, my wife texted me a photo of my youngest son on a quad, and I was excited for them. I called her and I said, "Where are you?" And she told me, and she said the kids are having a great time. And I said, "They can ride the quads, they had never been on them before." And she said, "Oh yeah, they've taken to them and they're having a great time." So when I got home from work, the kids told me all about it, and I was a little jealous because I wanted to go too. So we were able to go back a couple of weeks later, and we got to ride the mini bikes and quads, and I got to talk to friends, and they talked about how they got interested in it, and of course my kids had a great time. So a couple of weeks later, my wife said, "Maybe we ought to buy the kids a dirt bike." And I said, "Great, how are we going to do that?" She says, "What do you mean?" I says, "We have no place to ride. We don't have any place to store them. We don't have any place to really own dirt bikes." She says, "Well, that's your first problem. You're going to have to figure that out." We live in suburbia where the homes are less than 20 feet apart. The backyard is 40 by 60, and we have no place to ride. She said, "Well, figure it out." Well, I didn't know what to do. So there was a guy down the street that I knew that used to have a dirt bike, and he had sold it. So I talked to him. "Where do you ride?" Well, he rode in places where they were overgrown and where they weren't allowed to ride anymore. So I did some more digging, and he told me that there was one spot about 5 minutes from our house that was private property, but the kids rode dirt bikes on it all the time. As long as you weren't noisy or disruptive, they didn't care. So we took a drive up there, checked it out, said, "Okay, we have a spot." And then we went down into our own woods at the end of our street, and there was a little bit of space, but not a lot. So I thought, okay, we have a place to ride. Now it's time to find a dirt bike. What dirt bike do we buy? Well, when we were at our friend's house, they had a TTR 125. It was the small wheel version, and I was able to ride it. My oldest son was able to ride it a little bit, but not a lot. He mostly rode PW50 and TTR 110. No clutch, it was all automatic. Of course, my youngest son loved the little quads. He had a great time. So what bike was I going to buy them? I certainly wasn't going to go to a PW50 or a TTR 110 because they were already too small for them. So I opted for maybe finding a TTR 125. So I went to work on the internet and I found a 2014 Yamaha TTR 125. It was in a dealership and it was a new use, which means the guy bought it, never rode it, held it for a couple of years, and then traded it in on something else. Well, I found it online and I called the dealership, went up to take a look at it, and this bike was perfectly brand new. It had less than a tank of gas through it. It still had the fuzz on the tires. The tires weren't even worn, and this was the perfect bike. I rode around the parking lot and I said, "This is the bike." So I bought the bike and I surprised it with them when they came home.
Why did you get this?
And my oldest son was really excited, and I didn't know how well he was going to ride. Well, he basically got on it and was able to ride it in less than 10 minutes. My youngest son was unable to touch at the time, and he was unable to ride it for a few months until we grew a little bit and felt a little bit more comfortable. So that was the first bike that we bought them. I wanted to show you guys the TTR 125 in action. This is my oldest son. He is riding in the woods at the end of our street. We actually spent some time clearing logs and making these trails. Probably took 3 or 4 days. They were really excited about it because there was a purpose in hand. But he had a great time. The only problem is that it got a little muddy when it rained a lot, so we had to kind of pick some nice days and stick with them. This is our riding spot that was about 5 minutes from our house. When it's dry, it's great. When it's wet, it is a mud hole, of course. He goes out of frame here, but this is pretty much the loop that we had. There really wasn't much straying from this loop. You could ride in between the weeds and the trees, but it was basically a loop. This is great starting out, but it gets small very quickly. But he's having a great time. And the last clip is, of course, we had an ice storm and they wanted to take it out and try some donuts, and this was my son's first donut. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please click the like and subscribe button, and don't forget to click on the bell so you won't miss our next episode. And our next episode is going to be about the second bike that we bought our kids in the progression of this entire journey. We'll see you next time.